Welcome to today's Explainer. Jump right in with me for a second. When you think of South Carolina, what immediately comes to mind? Maybe it's the deep, rich history of those cobblestone streets, or perhaps it's a massive plate of incredible slow-cooked barbecue. And frankly, the sheer volume of mustard-based sauce consumed every summer is kind of a minor economic miracle all by itself. But today, we're going to look way past the surface level of this famous vacation destination. We're unpacking something much larger and, honestly, far more complex. We're looking at an absolute economic powerhouse. It's this invisible engine that actually keeps the gears of the Palmetto State turning, and it impacts a whole lot more than just the folks visiting for a long weekend. Here's our quick roadmap for today's Explainer. We're going to look at the sheer scale of the $20 billion engine, map out where the money enters, and explore the massive web of jobs it creates. Then we'll uncover a hidden resident tax benefit, track the economic multiplier effect, and finally, look at how all of this builds a resilient economic future. All right, Section 1, the $20 billion engine beyond the beach. To really grasp this economic machine, we basically need to completely rethink what we mean by the tourism industry. Okay, let's dive into this. $20 billion. That is the staggering amount of revenue generated by tourism in South Carolina every single year. To put that into perspective for you, that's enough to buy a lifetime supply of surfboards for literally everyone in the state several times over. When you see a number this massive, it completely changes the conversation, doesn't it? This isn't just about selling souvenirs on the boardwalk. An economic footprint of this magnitude, that makes it a foundational pillar of the state's entire financial structure. It's a massive, consistent influx of outside capital entering the local ecosystem year after year.
But to understand how we actually hit that $20 billion mark, we have to look at what's called the hospitality economy. See, while vacationers might just see a relaxing beach, economists see this broad, sweeping sector. It extends way beyond just booking your hotel room. It's the whole shebang. It encompasses the entire dining sector, sprawling entertainment venues, massive transportation networks, and retail. It's this incredibly complex, interconnected web. And when you zoom out and look at the hospitality economy as a whole, that's when you really start to see how that $20 billion is assembled.
Moving right along to Section 2, where the money enters, the big three hubs. Let's look at exactly how this new money flows into the state's coffers.
And this brilliantly illustrates the geographic strategy of South Carolina's tourism. The state isn't just relying on one type of visitor. The money enters through three totally distinct hubs, and each one attracts an entirely different economic demographic. At the top, you've got the Grand Strand and Myrtle Beach, which is just an absolute powerhouse for high-volume, family-focused tourism. Then you move down to the Low Country, encompassing Charleston and Hilton Head. That draws in a demographic heavily focused on luxury experiences, historical tourism, and world-class golf. And finally, you have the Upstate, pulling in visitors looking for state parks and mountain recreation. By diversifying the actual type of tourism across these big three hubs, the state basically guarantees a steady, diversified stream of visitor spending.
Section 3, Creating Jobs and Careers, the Employment Web. Let's shift our focus to the human element here, specifically the massive job market fueled entirely by this spending.
You know, there's a huge contrast between what we see as tourists and what actually goes on behind the scenes. Direct employment is super visible, right? These are your frontline jobs, the hotel concierge, your tour guide, the restaurant server. But the true scale of the hospitality economy is hidden in the indirect employment sector. Think about the massive web of support sectors. You've got local food suppliers delivering fresh produce to those restaurants, construction workers actively building the new resorts, marketing agencies designing the ad campaigns that brought the visitors there in the first place. The career diversity here is absolutely incredible, ranging from entry-level seasonal work straight up to executive hospitality management. That visitor's dollar doesn't just pay the hotel clerk, it literally pays the truck driver delivering the hotel's linens.
Which brings us to Section 4, the hidden resident tax benefit. Who really pays? Now this is where it gets really fascinating. Who's actually paying the bills? It's a question we almost never stop to ask. When you drive down a smoothly paved road to the beach, or you're walking through a beautifully maintained state park, who actually paid for that? The assumption is usually that local residents shoulder all of that burden through their income and property taxes. But in a hospitality economy, the math looks very, very different.
So the crucial point is this. Accommodations taxes, often just called ATAX, and hospitality taxes collected directly from visitors act as a silent, incredibly powerful subsidy for local residents. These taxes directly fund state and local budgets. Without that tax revenue generated by millions of tourists, the average South Carolina household would be on the hook. They would literally have to pay significantly more in annual state and local taxes just to maintain the exact same level of public services they have right now. Tourism dollars are directly used to fund vital community infrastructure. We're talking massive beach nourishment projects, routine park maintenance, and widespread road improvements. Basically, the tourists leave, but the infrastructure they paid for stays.
Let's pivot to Section 5, the economic multiplier effect, following the ripple. We're going to track the actual journey of a single tourist dollar as it moves through the local economy.
Let's move to and see how this builds in the real world. It's like watching a ripple effect happen in real time. Step 1. The cycle kicks off with local business support. Tourists buy a sweetgrass basket from a local artisan, pick up produce at a farmer's market, or shop at a local boutique. That immediately injects cash directly into the community. Step 2. Because the area becomes so highly desirable, that demand drives up local real estate values. It spurs the purchase of vacation rentals and second homes, which dramatically increases the local tax base. And finally, Step 3. This aggregated revenue cycles right back into the state's cultural heritage. Those funds are used for the upkeep and cultural preservation of major historical sites, places like Fort Sumter or the historic plantations. Without this tourist-driven revenue cycle, many of these sites might literally fall into total disrepair. It's wild to think that buying something at a farmer's market eventually ripples out to preserve history. And finally, Section 6, building a resilient future beyond the summer vacation. Let's look at the big picture future of this vital economic engine. Because, this economic engine isn't just about surviving the crazy summer rush. It's about long-term resilience. First off, tourism provides a vital safety net for the state. By operating right alongside other massive industries like manufacturing and agriculture, it ensures incredible economic diversification. If manufacturing hits a slump, the hospitality economy is there to help keep the state afloat. Looking forward, the future outlook heavily relies on a conscious shift towards sustainable tourism practices, making sure the natural beauty that actually draws people in isn't destroyed by them. Plus, the state is heavily focused on developing year-round attractions, smoothing out those seasonal bumps, and creating a truly stable, 365-day economic engine.
So, we've seen how a $20 billion industry kind of disguises itself as just a simple beach vacation, silently funding infrastructure, creating massive indirect job networks, and preserving history. And it really makes you wonder, if an invisible hospitality engine funds so much of South Carolina, what hidden economies are quietly powering your own community? Next time you look around your hometown, look past the surface and try to find the invisible engine. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.